Would you die to save a child who isn't yours? That's the question a dying woman asked Naomi Carter 5 years ago. In a burning building with gunshots echoing through smoke-filled hallways, with a screaming infant pressed into her arms and a single desperate word, promise. Naomi promised, and that promise turned her into a mother, a fugitive, and eventually something she never expected. A woman falling in love with the most dangerous man she'd ever met. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it really began. To a Tuesday morning in South Central Los Angeles. To a laundromat window streaked with rain. To the moment Naomi saw a man in a black coat step out of an expensive sedan and stare at her 5-year-old son. More specifically, at the silver bracelet on the boy's wrist, the one she couldn't remove, the one engraved with foreign characters that spelled out a truth she'd been running from. This child belonged to someone else, someone powerful, someone who'd been searching for 5 long years, and now they'd found him. Naomi's hands froze on the clean cotton sheets she was folding. Her son, Hansu, 5 years old, beautiful and deaf, and hers in every way that mattered, stood at the glass making shapes in the condensation, signing words only she understood. Rain, sky, mama. She had seconds to decide, run again, or finally stop running. The South Central neighborhood had been home for 3 years, long enough to blend in. Long enough for people to stop asking questions. Naomi worked mornings at Mrs. Davis's laundromat, folding linens, mending hems, keeping her past locked away like old photographs in a drawer. Her story was simple. Single mom, no family, just trying to survive. The truth would have gotten them both killed. She watched Hansu trace raindrops on the glass, his dark curls catching the gray light. When he laughed, all breath and silent joy, her heart squeezed. She'd learned sign language from library books, teaching herself at night while he slept. His world would never be limited by silence. Not if she had anything to say about it. Mrs. Davis emerged from the back, wiping flour from her hands. The older woman made her famous sweet potato pie between loads of laundry. "That boy's growing like a weed," she said warmly. "He eats like one too," Naomi replied, smiling despite the tension coiling in her chest. "You know what I learned in 68 years?" Mrs. Davis's voice dropped lower. "Fear's a poor master, baby. It'll make you small, make you hide. But love tells you to stand tall, even when your knees are shaking. Don't let fear dictate your future." The words hit deeper than the older woman knew. Through the window, the man in the black coat remained, watching, confirming, building a case she couldn't fight. Naomi pulled Hansu close, his small hands signed against her stomach. Hungry. Home. "Yeah, baby, let's go home." But home suddenly felt less like sanctuary and more like borrowed time running out. Have you ever protected someone so fiercely that your own heart became the hiding place? The apartment was small, 1 bedroom, a kitchen, barely big enough to turn around in. A living room where Hansu's drawings covered every wall. Rainbows, crooked houses, stick figure families holding hands. 3 years of peace, 3 years of pretending they were normal. Naomi locked the door, checked the windows. Old reflexes she'd tried to forget. Hansu tugged her sleeve, signing, "Story?" She knelt beside him, forcing a smile. "Not tonight, baby. Mama's tired." His face fell, those dark, trusting eyes, searching for reassurance she couldn't quite give. She heated up leftovers, watched him eat slowly, signing thank you between bites like she'd taught him. Such good manners, such a gentle soul. Nothing about him suggested the violence he'd been born into. After he fell asleep, Naomi opened her bedroom closet. Past winter coats and broken appliances, she found the shoebox. Her hands shook as she lifted the lid. Inside, her old hospital ID badge from 5 years ago, a fragment of burned baby blanket, and the photograph. The woman was young, elegant even in terror. Flames behind her, smoke everywhere, her hands pressing a screaming infant toward Naomi, toward a stranger who'd run into hell instead of away from it. The woman's last words echoed across 5 years. Save him. Promise me he'll never see that world. Naomi had been 23 then, 6 months into her ER residency, working overnight when the violence erupted. She never asked questions. She just ran toward the gunfire and found a dying mother and a child who would have burned. She'd made a promise, kept it every day since. But promises made in fire don't stay buried forever. Morning came too fast. Naomi took Hansu to kindergarten, a community center program where teachers knew sign language and treated him like any other kid. Halfway down the block, that familiar weight returned. Eyes on her back. She turned. The man from yesterday stood near the playground fence, tall, mid-30s, his expensive suit barely concealed by a plain jacket. Too refined for this neighborhood. But his eyes weren't on her. They were fixed on Hansu's wrist, on the silver bracelet she'd tried desperately to remove last night. The clasp was jammed, permanently stuck, and Hansu loved it anyway, wore it like a good luck charm. Now she understood. It wasn't luck. It was a tracking beacon. The man took one step forward. Naomi pulled Hansu behind her. He didn't advance further. He just nodded once, confirmation, and walked away. Naomi's pulse hammered. She got Hansu to class, smiled at his teacher like everything was fine, then sat in her car for 10 minutes trying to breathe. That night, she tried again with the bracelet. Soap, oil, ice, nothing worked. The mechanism was completely seized. Hansu watched with confused eyes. Hurt? He signed. No, baby, it's just stuck. But it was more than stuck. It was a marker, evidence. 5 years of hiding, undone by a piece of jewelry she should have cut off the moment she ran. She didn't sleep, just sat in the dark kitchen, staring at the photograph, wondering when they'd come for him. If you're feeling the weight of this moment like Naomi is, stay with me. Hit that subscribe button. This story's about to test everything she believes about love, fear, and what it means to be a mother. He came to the laundromat on Thursday. Naomi was alone, Mrs. Davis visiting her sister, Hansu, still at kindergarten. The bell chimed. She looked up from the folding table. The man stepped inside. Up close, he was younger than she'd expected, early 30s, sharp features, eyes like winter, cold but not cruel, tired maybe, haunted. He didn't speak immediately. Just walked to the window, looked out at the street, then back at her, measuring, deciding. "My name is Lee Hyun-jae," he said finally. His English was precise, each word carefully chosen. "I believe you have someone who belongs to me." Naomi's hands froze on the shirt she was folding. "I don't know what you're talking about." A child, 5 years old, black hair, brown skin, deaf, wears a silver bracelet he can't remove. Her throat tightened. "You've got the wrong person." "I don't." He stepped closer, not threatening, just certain. "I've spent 5 years searching. hired private investigators across 3 states. They tracked hospital records, fire department reports, witness statements. Everyone who was there that night either died or disappeared. Except you. You transferred hospitals 2 months later, changed cities, started over. His voice was steady, relentless. My people found your old supervisor. She remembered you, said you were brilliant, dedicated, and that you quit suddenly without explanation. Naomi's pulse raced. That doesn't mean the bracelet proves it. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. A woman in a wedding dress, smiling, wearing that same silver bracelet. My wife, she died 5 years ago in a fire. They told me my son died with her. I believe them because I found no body, no proof otherwise. His voice cracked. But someone lied. Someone tried to erase my son to weaken me, to take what I'd built. What you built, Naomi said carefully. You mean your organization? His jaw tightened. I prefer to call it a family business. I call it what it is. She met his eyes. You want to take a child from safety and put him back into that life, violence, danger, fear. I want my son. And I've been his mother for 5 years. The silence between them was heavy, unbreakable. Hyunjae's posture shifted slightly. You saved him. I gave him a life, without his father, without his trauma. Naomi's voice cracked. That woman, your wife, she begged me. She said, promise me he'll never see that world. I promised, and I've kept it. His hands curled into fists, not anger, grief. The bracelet has an inscription inside the band, 3 words, forever, one heart. I had it engraved for my wife on our wedding day. The clasp broke 6 months later. She meant to fix it, but never did. He swallowed hard. And now my son wears it, and you can't remove it because fate won't let you erase who he is. Naomi's breath caught. She'd seen those words, traced them with her finger 100 times, wondering what they meant. Do you know who I am? He asked. I know enough. Then you know I could take him right now. You have no legal claim, no documents, no fear, Naomi interrupted. She stepped around the counter, standing her ground. You think I've survived 5 years by being scared? You think I raised that boy, fed him, taught him, loved him, just to hand him over because some powerful man shows up with demands? Hyunjae studied her. You're braver than I expected. And you're exactly what I expected. Cold, entitled. Someone who thinks ownership is the same as love. I am his father. Then prove it. She crossed her arms. Prove you're more than blood and power. Prove you can be what he actually needs. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. He doesn't know you, Naomi continued. He's 5. He's happy, safe, thriving. If you take him now, you'll traumatize him. Is that what you want? A frightened child who doesn't trust you? Hyunjae's jaw worked. What do you want? I want you to choose him over your empire, over your pride, over whatever revenge you're planning. You don't understand my world. I understand children, and I understand that you're standing in my laundromat looking lost, not powerful, not in control, just lost. The truth hit him visibly. He looked away, toward the rain-streaked window. I need to see him, he said finally. No, you can't keep him from me forever. I can try. She pulled her phone from her pocket. And if you threaten me, I'll call people who care about a nurse who saved a child from a fire. People who'll ask questions you can't answer. Hyunjae's smile was bitter. You think that will stop me? I think it will make you choose who you want to be. The bell chimed. Mrs. Davis walked in, shaking rain from her umbrella, eyes sharp as she assessed the situation. "Everything okay, baby?" she asked Naomi, voice casual but body tense. Naomi didn't look away from Hyun-jae. "Just a customer who's lost." Hyun-jae inclined his head slightly. "I'll find my way." He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. "This isn't finished." "I know," Naomi said, "but it's going to be different than you expect." He left. Rain fell harder. Mrs. Davis locked the door behind him. "That man's trouble." "I know." "You gonna run?" Naomi thought of Han-soo, his drawings, his laughter, his trust. "No, not this time." "Good girl." Mrs. Davis squeezed her shoulder. "Sometimes standing still is the bravest thing you can do. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't running. It's standing still and daring the storm to break around you." The letter arrived 3 days later. Formal, legal, a request, not a demand for a DNA test. Naomi read it twice. The language was respectful, but underneath was steel. "I know where you live. I know everything. This can be easy or difficult." She burned it in the kitchen sink. That evening, Hyun-jae found them at the small restaurant 2 blocks from her apartment, the place where she sometimes took Han-soo for comfort food. Spicy rice dishes and dumplings that reminded her of the hospital nurses who'd taught her to cook properly years ago. He was waiting in a corner booth when they arrived. Han-soo didn't notice at first. He was busy looking at the menu, signing excitedly about eggs and meat and rice, his favorites. But Naomi saw him immediately. Her steps faltered. Hyun-jae stood slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. Han-soo tugged her sleeve. "Who?" "Just someone, baby." But her heart was racing. They couldn't leave without making a scene, without frightening Han-soo. So she walked to the booth, sat across from Hyun-jae, pulled Han-soo close beside her. "Following us now?" she asked quietly, trying to understand. His eyes weren't on her. They were on Han-soo, hungry, desperate, years of grief barely contained. "Please, just let me see him." Han-soo peeked around Naomi's arm, curious. He signed. "Friend?" "No, baby, just—" But Hyun-jae's eyes were filling, slow, quiet, the kind of tears that came from 5 years of believing your child was dead. The waitress brought water. Naomi ordered for Han-soo, her voice steady despite the chaos in her chest. Hyun-jae cleared his throat. "I brought something." He pushed an envelope across the table. "For his care, medical bills, school, whatever he needs." Naomi glanced at it, thick, more money than she'd make in a year. She pushed it back hard. The envelope slid across the table and fell to the floor with a soft thud. The restaurant went quiet. Other diners, families, couples, an elderly man reading a newspaper, turned to look. "I don't want your money," Naomi said firmly. "It's not a bribe. It's guilt." She leaned forward. "If you want your son back, start with your heart, not your wallet." A woman at the next table whispered to her companion. The elderly man nodded approvingly at Naomi. Even the waitress paused mid-step, watching. Hyun-jae stared at her. "Then what do you want?" "I want you to prove you can be in his life without destroying it." She gestured to Han-soo, who was drawing on a napkin with a crayon. "Look at him, he's thriving. He doesn't need wealth or legacy. He needs safety, consistency, love that doesn't come with conditions. I can provide that. Can you?" Her voice softened. "Can you walk away from your world, from the power, from whatever revenge you're planning against the people who tried to kill him? Hyun-jae's silence was her answer. That's what I thought. Naomi stood, gathering Han-soo. The boy signed. Food? We'll eat at home, baby. The entire restaurant watched them leave. Naomi held her head high, Han-soo's small hand in hers. Behind them, Hyun-jae sat alone with an envelope of money nobody wanted. But as they passed his booth, he spoke. One word. Broken. Please. Not a demand, not a threat. A plea. Naomi stopped, looked back. His face was in his hands, shoulders shaking. In that moment, he wasn't powerful. He was just a father who'd lost everything. Something in Naomi's chest cracked. If you want to see him, she said quietly, you earn it. 1 hour, once a week, public place. You learn sign language. You learn his world before you try to pull him into yours. Hyun-jae looked up, hope breaking through the grief. And if you bring danger anywhere near him, Naomi continued, I disappear. You'll never find us again. Understood? He nodded, firm, grateful. Saturday, the park by the elementary school, 2 o'clock. Don't be late. She left him sitting there, the money still on the floor, untouched. Outside, Han-soo signed, sad man. Yeah, baby, very sad. Why? She knelt, meeting his eyes. Because sometimes people lose things they love and forget how to find their way back. Han-soo hugged her, tight, trusting. She held him and wondered if she'd just made the bravest or most foolish choice of her life. Love isn't about possession, it's about presence. And sometimes letting someone in is the hardest kind of protection. Saturday came too quickly. Naomi dressed Han-soo in his favorite hoodie, the dinosaur one, and walked to the park with her heart in her throat. Hyun-jae was already there, sitting on a bench, no bodyguards visible, though she suspected they were nearby. He'd changed, jeans, plain jacket, no expensive suits, trying to look normal, trying to blend in. Han-soo spotted the swings and tugged her hand. Play? In a minute, baby. She guided him toward the bench, toward the man who was biologically his father, but emotionally a stranger. Hyun-jae stood, awkward, uncertain in a way she'd never seen before. Hi, he said, to Han-soo, as if the boy could hear. Naomi touched his arm gently. He's deaf, remember? Hyun-jae's face flushed. Right, I learned some signs. He held up his hands, clumsy but earnest, formed the letters, Hello. Han-soo tilted his head, then slowly signed back, hello. Hyun-jae's smile was fragile, breakable, beautiful. Go play, Naomi signed to Han-soo. I'll watch from here. The boy ran to the swings, happy to be free. Hyun-jae sat. Naomi sat beside him, keeping careful space between them. Thank you, he said quietly, for this chance. Don't thank me yet. You haven't earned anything. They watched Han-soo swing, legs pumping, face bright with joy. He's beautiful, Hyun-jae murmured, like his mother. She was brave. Giving him to me took courage I can't imagine. She was the best part of me. His voice cracked. I didn't protect her. I was too focused on maintaining power, on keeping control, on staying ahead of my enemies, and she died because of my choices. That's not his burden to carry. I know. Hyun-jae's hands clenched, but I want him safe, and in my world, safety means strength, being untouchable. No, Naomi shook her head. Safety means being loved, being known, being protected by people who see you as a person, not property. Hyun-jae looked at her. You see him. Every single day, every moment. She paused. Do you even know his favorite color? Silence. His favorite food? What makes him laugh? What scares him at night? Hyun-jae's jaw worked. I want to learn. Then learn, not because he's your legacy, because he's a person who deserves to be known. They spent an hour together. Hyun-jae, stiff and uncertain, tried to connect. He pushed Han-soo on the swings, his hands gentle despite their strength. He sat in the sandbox, watching the boy build lopsided castles, signing good and beautiful in his limited vocabulary. And then Han-soo did something that changed everything. He looked up at Hyun-jae, studied his face with those serious dark eyes, then signed, slow and deliberate. Father? You, father? Hyun-jae froze. His eyes went wide, wet. Han-soo signed it again. Father? Hyun-jae's hands trembled as he signed back. Yes, I'm your father. And then he was crying. Silently, openly, 5 years of grief spilling out in a South Central park, while a 5-year-old boy watched with curious, accepting eyes. Han-soo crawled into his lap, hugged him with small, trusting arms. Hyun-jae wrapped himself around his son and broke. Naomi looked away, her own eyes stinging. This was the moment she'd feared, watching Han-soo start to belong to someone else. But also the moment she realized love didn't divide. It multiplied. It expanded to hold more than you thought possible. And something else, something unexpected and dangerous, watching this powerful man surrender to fatherhood, watching him hold his son with trembling hands and tear-streaked face, watching him choose vulnerability over control. Her heart shifted, not in fear, in recognition. She wasn't just protecting Han-soo anymore. She was beginning to care about his father too, about the man he was trying to become. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like the first rain after a drought. Unexpected, necessary, life-giving. After a while, Hyun-jae composed himself. He signed thank you to Han-soo with clumsy but sincere hands, then looked at Naomi over the boy's head. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. I don't know how to be a father without being a boss. You start by showing up, Naomi said. Every week, no guards, no money, just you and him. He nodded. I can do that. And you think about what kind of man you want him to become, because children learn what they see, not what we tell them. Hyun-jae held his son tighter. I don't want him to see what I've been. Then change, Naomi said simply, before it's too late. When they left the park, Han-soo signed goodbye to Hyun-jae. Then next week, Hyun-jae signed back, yes, promise. As Naomi and Han-soo walked home, the boy was quiet, content, peaceful. But Naomi felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. She'd opened a door, and she couldn't control what came through it, or what it would do to her heart. Change doesn't happen in grand gestures. It happens in small moments, a hug, a promise, a willingness to be seen at your most vulnerable. For 3 weeks, life felt almost normal. Hyun-jae came every Saturday, learned more signs, brought books, folk tales that Naomi read aloud while he turned pages for Han-soo. He was patient, gentle, trying. Naomi noticed other things too, the way he watched her when she laughed, the way he asked about her day, her dreams, her life before Han-soo. He brought her tea once, expensive imported tea that tasted like honey and autumn, and said simply, for the nights when sleep won't come. She didn't ask how he knew about her insomnia, but the peace was fragile. Mrs. Davis noticed the cars first, different ones, not Hyun-jae's. These were watching, circling, waiting with predatory patience. "Someone else knows," she told Naomi, "and they're not as patient as your boy's father." Fear returned, cold and familiar. She confronted Hyun-jae in the park. "We're being watched. Different cars, different people." His face darkened. Baek Dae Sung, my former second in command. He's the one who orchestrated the fire that killed my wife. He tried to kill my son to control the organization through my grief. When that failed, he took over during my mourning. And now I'm a threat because I'm whole again, because I have something to fight for. "You need to leave," Naomi said. "You need to disappear from our lives before—" "No." His voice was firm. "I won't lose you both again." You both. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. It happened on a Tuesday. Rain. Again. Naomi was closing the laundromat alone. Mrs. Davis had left early. Han-soo was in the back room, coloring. The bell chimed. 3 men walked in, young, well-dressed, wrong energy radiating from them like heat off pavement. "Mrs. Carter," the first one said, "you have something we need." Naomi's hand found her phone in her pocket. "The shop's closed." Not the shop. His smile was cold. The child. Her blood turned to ice. She stepped backward toward the back room. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Mr. Beck sends his regards. He says the boy belongs to the organization, not to Lee Hyun-jae, not to you. The heir must return to his rightful place." He pulled out his phone, showed her photos. Mrs. Davis walking to her car. Han-soo's kindergarten teacher locking up for the night. "We know everyone you care about. Give us the boy and they stay safe. Fight us and we visit them all. Tonight." Terror flooded through her. "You wouldn't." "We would. Mr. Beck doesn't make empty threats." Naomi's mind raced. If she gave them Han-soo, he'd be used as leverage. If she fought, innocent people would be hurt. There was no winning. "Give us the boy, now." "No." The man sighed. "Then we do this the unpleasant way." They moved fast, but Naomi was faster. She slammed the backroom door, locked it, grabbed Han-soo from the floor. His eyes were wide, terrified. She signed, "Quiet. Hide, game." She pulled him into the storage closet, behind the industrial washers. Her phone was out. She dialed Hyun-jae. It rang once, twice. The door splintered, wood cracking under force. "Naomi?" Hyun-jae's voice came through. "They're here," she whispered urgently. "Back room, 3 men. Baek sent them. I have Han-soo. The door burst open. Naomi shoved Han-soo deeper behind the washer, grabbed a bottle of industrial cleaner from the shelf. Not much of a weapon, but something. The first man spotted her. "Come on, don't make this uglier than it needs to be." "Too late," she said, and sprayed the chemical directly at his face. He screamed. His partners lunged for her. She fought with everything she had, kicked, clawed, used elbows and knees and desperation. One grabbed her hair. She bit his hand hard. He backhanded her across the face. Pain exploded. The world tilted, blood in her mouth. She hit the floor, visions swimming. The man bent down, reaching toward Han-soo's hiding spot. And then everything changed. The door crashed open. Hyun-jae stepped through, calm, controlled, dangerous, but he wasn't armed. His hands were empty. "Leave," he said, voice like iron, like judgment. Tell Beck I'm coming for him through legal channels. Tell him the FBI has been watching. Tell him his time is finished. The men hesitated. You can walk out now, Hyun-jae continued. Or you can explain to federal agents why you're here threatening a woman and child. Your choice. But you have 5 seconds to decide. They looked at each other, at Naomi bleeding on the floor, at Hyun-jae blocking their exit. One pulled out his phone, made a call, spoke rapidly. Then they ran. Hyun-jae waited until they were gone before turning to Naomi. She was on her knees, pulling Han-soo from behind the washer. The boy was crying silently, body shaking with fear. Naomi? Hyun-jae's voice cracked. She looked up at him, blood on her lip, bruise forming on her cheek, fire in her eyes. You brought this to us. I know. You said you'd keep him safe. I tried. Trying isn't enough. Her voice broke. You can't just want to be better. You have to be better. You have to walk away from that world completely, or you'll get him killed. Hyun-jae knelt beside her. Tell me how. I don't know. That's your choice. Your burden to... She swayed, suddenly dizzy. Your burden to carry. She collapsed. Hyun-jae caught her, blood seeping through her shirt, where one of the men had cut her with something. Not deep, but enough. He lifted her carefully. I'm taking you to the hospital. No, police. Questions. They'll take Han-soo. County emergency room. I have connections there. They'll treat you, no questions asked. He looked at Han-soo, who was staring at him with terrified eyes. He signed, clumsy but clear. Safe now, Father Fix. He carried Naomi to his car, secured Han-soo in the back. And as they drove through the rain, Naomi's hand found his on the gear shift. If you want to keep him, she whispered, learn to protect without violence, without revenge, without becoming the thing you hate. Her eyes closed, Hyun-jae's jaw clenched, but he nodded, for her, for his son, for the man he needed to become. Real strength isn't in the power to destroy. It's in the courage to choose mercy when vengeance feels justified. Naomi woke to antiseptic smell and steady beeping. Hospital monitors, fluorescent lights dimmed low. Her side throbbed, stitched and bandaged professionally. She turned her head slowly. Hyun-jae sat in the chair beside her bed. Han-soo curled against his chest, both asleep, father and son, exhausted, holding on like lifelines. The door opened. A nurse, young, kind-faced, checked the IV and smiled. You're lucky. Another inch, and it would have been serious. Your husband hasn't left your side. Neither has your son. Naomi didn't correct the assumption. The words your husband sat strange and warm in her chest. When the nurse left, Hyun-jae stirred. His eyes opened, bloodshot, haunted. Relief crashed across his face when he saw her awake. Naomi. Her name was a prayer. Hey, she whispered, throat dry. He carefully shifted Han-soo to the other chair, covering him with his jacket, then moved to her bedside. The doctor said you'll heal, no permanent damage, but you lost blood. You scared us. Us? Him? Me? His hand hovered over hers, not quite touching. When I saw you on that floor, bleeding, I thought I'd failed again, failed to protect what mattered. You came, you saved us. Barely. His jaw clenched. If I'd been 5 minutes later, but you weren't. Silence stretched between them. Outside, the hospital hummed with night shift activity. Hyun-jae stood abruptly, walked to the window, stared out at the parking lot lights reflecting off rain-slicked pavement. I wanted to hurt them, he said quietly. When I saw them attacking you, reaching for my son, every instinct screamed at me, it to eliminate the threat permanently. He turned to face her. But I heard your voice in my head, what you said about learning to protect without violence. So I made a different choice. She waited, heart pounding. I called the FBI on my way to you, gave them Bayek's location, his operation details, everything they'd need to build a case. He sat on the edge of her bed, careful not to jostle her. Those men ran because I told them federal agents were already building charges. Because I chose law over revenge. You did that? I've been working with investigators for weeks, quietly, gathering evidence, banking statements, recorded conversations, testimony from people Bayek hurt. His voice was steady now. I want him in prison for life, paying for what he did, but through the system, not through me. Naomi's eyes filled. That must have been hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Every part of me wanted to solve this my way. But you're right. If I want Hansu to see me as someone worth respecting, I have to be someone worth becoming. Hyun-jae reached into his jacket, the one covering Hansu, and pulled out legal documents. His hands trembled slightly as he placed them on her lap. Naomi looked down. Official letterhead, legal language. Her eyes caught on the bold text, voluntary relinquishment of sole parental rights. What is this? My surrender? He knelt beside her bed, this powerful man on his knees. I'm giving up my legal claim to sole custody. I'm asking the court to recognize you as Hansu's legal mother with full equal rights. Equal custody, equal say in everything, equal. Naomi's breath stopped. I've lost too much because I tried to control everything, Hyun-jae said, voice breaking. Because I thought power meant safety. But you showed me that love isn't about ownership. It's about partnership, about choosing each other every day. Hyun-jae, today I choose you and my child, he continued. Not because I need an heir, not because I'm trying to rebuild what I lost, but because you are the best thing that's happened to both of us. And I want, if you'll let me, to be part of this family. Not as the boss, not as the one in control, but as an equal, as a partner, as a man trying to be worthy of the love you've already given. Naomi's tears spilled over. This is real? These documents? I'll sign them tomorrow, with you present, so you know I mean it. She reached out, her hand shaking, and touched his face. He leaned into her palm like a man finding water in a desert. You don't need to choose, she said softly. You just need to keep changing, and you are. I see it. Is it enough? It's a beginning, and beginnings are how we build everything that matters. He pressed his forehead to her hand. I'll sign it, the papers, tomorrow, with witnesses, legal and binding. I believe you. I need to do more than make you believe. I need to show you every day, for as long as you'll let me. Naomi's chest ached, not from the wound, but from hope trying to break through years of fear. What about Beck, your organization? Beck will be arrested within 48 hours. The FBI has everything. He'll face justice for murder, racketeering, everything. He smiled, bitter but free. And my organization? I handed control to someone I trust, someone who'll either make it legitimate or dissolve it. Either way, it's not mine anymore. And you're okay with that? I'm more than okay. I'm free. He met her eyes. I spent years thinking power would protect me, protect the people I love. But it just made everyone a target. You were right. The only way to keep Hansu safe, to keep you safe, is to walk away completely. Han-soo stirred in the chair, signing in his sleep. Family, safe, home. They both looked at him. He's dreaming, Naomi whispered. Good dreams, I hope. The best kind, the kind that come true. Mrs. Davis appeared in the doorway, carrying a thermos of tea and a bag of cookies. She took one look at the scene. Hyun-jae on his knees, Naomi crying, the papers on the bed, and smiled knowingly. About time, she said simply. Hyun-jae stood, helped Naomi sit up more comfortably, and Mrs. Davis poured tea for all of them. Even a small cup with extra honey for Han-soo when he woke. I don't know how to do this, Hyun-jae admitted. Normal life, the everyday things. None of us do at first, Mrs. Davis said wisely. But you learn. One day at a time, one choice at a time. One load of laundry at a time, Naomi added, smiling through her tears. He laughed, genuine, warm, the sound of a man remembering how. I can learn laundry. We'll see about that. As dawn broke outside the hospital window, they sat together. Naomi and Hyun-jae, Mrs. Davis and Han-soo, drinking tea and eating cookies, and building the foundation of something new. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and equal, and filled with the kind of love that doesn't demand surrender, just presence, just choice, just the slow, sacred work of becoming family. Sometimes the most radical act of love is choosing to stay, not out of fear, but out of hope for what you can build together. 6 months passed like pages in a book, slow at first, then faster as the story found its rhythm. The early weeks had crawled by with the weight of adjustment, every day feeling like a test they weren't sure they'd pass. But gradually, imperceptibly, the sharp edges smoothed. Breakfast became routine. Bedtimes became predictable. The three of them learned each other's rhythms, the way musicians learn a new piece, haltingly at first, then with growing confidence. Naomi returned to nursing part-time at a community clinic, where she could use her skills without the trauma center chaos. The slower pace suited her now. She treated everyday ailments, flu shots, blood pressure checks, diabetes management, and found unexpected joy in the continuity. Seeing the same patients month after month, watching children grow, helping elderly neighbors manage chronic conditions. It was healing work in a different way. Mrs. Davis threw her a welcome back party, complete with sweet potato pie, still warm from the oven, and too many hugs from neighbors who'd become family. The small apartment filled with laughter and music, with Han-soo signing thank you to everyone who brought him cookies. His smile bright enough to light the whole room. Hyun-jae kept every promise. He showed up every single day. Even when business called him away, he made it back for bedtime. Even when exhaustion pulled at him, he stayed awake to sign goodnight stories. He learned to braid Han-soo's hair, badly at first, lumpy and crooked, the boy's giggles vibrating against his chest as he tried again, but improving, always improving. He attended parent-teacher meetings, sitting in those tiny chairs made for children, asking thoughtful questions about Han-soo's progress with reading and math, signed permission slips for field trips, made lunches with notes tucked inside, did the mundane, beautiful work of being present. The kind of work that doesn't make headlines, but builds everything that matters. The transition from his old life was messy but final. There were loose ends to tie, relationships to sever, loyalties to redirect. His trusted associate took over what remained of the organization, working with authorities to make operations legitimate. It took months of negotiations, immunity deals, careful restructuring. Hyun-jae spent countless hours with lawyers and federal agents, answering questions, providing documentation, dismantling what he'd spent years building. It should have felt like loss. Instead, it felt like shedding skin that no longer fit. Baek Dae-sung was arrested on a Wednesday morning in early spring. Naomi watched the news footage with Hyun-jae, both of them silent as the story unfolded on screen. Federal agents leading him out in handcuffs, his expression cold and unrepentant, even as charges scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Racketeering, murder, conspiracy, witness intimidation. The list went on and on. Years of violence and corruption, finally catalogued for the world to see. "It's finished," she whispered, hardly believing the words even as she spoke them. "It's finished," Hyun-jae confirmed. He didn't look triumphant, just tired, relieved, like a man who'd been holding his breath for years and could finally exhale. He'll spend his life in prison. Mrs. Davis, the teachers, everyone, they're safe now, truly safe. Han-soo, watching quietly from the floor where he'd been coloring, looked up. His small hands moved. "Bad man gone?" "Yes, baby," Naomi signed back, kneeling to meet his eyes. "Bad man gone for good. Only good people stay." The boy smiled, not just with his mouth, but with his whole being, and returned to his drawing. A house with 3 stick figures holding hands, flowers growing in bright crayon colors around them. Mom, Dad, me. The words labeled carefully in his improving handwriting. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday morning over breakfast, Hyun-jae asked a question that changed everything. "Come with me to Seoul, just the 3 of us. I want Han-soo to know where he comes from, where his birth mother is buried, where his story began before it became our story." Naomi hesitated, her coffee cup suspended halfway to her lips. "That's a big step." "It's time," Hyun-jae said gently. He should know his whole history, the joy and the sorrow, the loss and the love, but he should know it, surrounded by people who love him, who will help him carry whatever he feels. She studied his face, open, earnest, patient, and saw not the dangerous man from 5 years ago, but someone transformed, someone who understood that love meant facing hard truths together. She agreed. Seoul at night was a symphony of lights and life. Neon signs in flowing Hangul script glowed against dark sky. Red lanterns swayed in evening breeze outside traditional restaurants, tucked between modern buildings. The smell of street food drifting up from vendor carts, spicy tteokbokki rice cakes, and sweet hotteok pancakes mixing in warm air. The scent of sizzling meat and fermented kimchi weaving through it all. Blue and pink lights reflecting off glass towers, turning the city into a living painting where ancient and modern existed side by side in perfect chaos. They stood on a private rooftop, a quiet space Hyun-jae had arranged, away from the crowds below. The city spread beneath them, like a million stories written in light, each window a life, each street a journey, all of it pulsing with the heartbeat of a place that never quite slept. Han-soo ran to the railing, eyes wide with wonder. His hands moved rapidly. Beautiful, so big. Sky everywhere, can see forever. Naomi laughed, pulling him back gently from the edge, her hand protective on his shoulder. "Careful, baby, let's enjoy the view from right here." Hyun-jae joined them, holding a black umbrella though the sky was clear. Clouds gathered on the horizon, the kind that promised gentle rain, the sort that blessed rather than punished. He'd learned to read Korean weather the way he'd once read people's intentions. And he knew what was coming. "This is where I grew up," he said to Han-soo, signing as he spoke, so the words existed in both their languages. "This city, this country, your birth mother, she loved it here. She'd bring me to places like this when I was overwhelmed by everything, when the world felt too big and too cruel. She'd say the city at night reminded her that no matter how small you feel, you're part of something bigger, something beautiful, that your small light adds to all the other lights, and together we make something worth seeing." Han-soo tilted his head, processing. His hands moved slowly, carefully. "Two mothers?" "Yes." Hyunjae's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "One gave you life, one gave you love, both gave you everything you needed. Both live in you, in your kindness, your strength, your joy." Naomi's throat tightened. Earlier that day, they'd visited the cemetery. Lee's son Hee was buried on a hillside overlooking the city lights, her grave marked with fresh flowers from people who still remembered her kindness. They'd brought white chrysanthemums, the traditional flower of mourning and respect. Han-soo had traced her name on the stone with small reverent fingers, feeling the carved characters, then signed with solemn grace, "Thank you, First Mama. I'm okay now. You can rest." It was the bravest, most beautiful thing Naomi had ever witnessed. A 5-year-old child offering absolution to a ghost, freeing both of them. "And you," Hyunjae continued, looking at Naomi now with an intensity that made her breath catch, "gave him a future when the world wanted to steal it. You hid him, protected him, raised him, not because you were paid or obligated, not because you were afraid, but because you loved him more than you feared the consequences. You saw a child who needed saving, and you chose love over safety, over your career, your freedom, everything." Naomi shook her head, emotion thick in her voice. "I was terrified every day, every knock on the door, every stranger who looked too long. Every question Han-soo asked that I couldn't answer honestly. But you stayed anyway. Fear and love, they're not opposites. Sometimes courage is just love that's stronger than fear. And you have that kind of courage." Rain began to fall, soft, warm, blessing them from a clearing sky in that strange, magical way that only happens when weather can't quite make up its mind between storm and sunshine. Hyunjae opened the umbrella over them, over his son, over the woman who'd saved everything, over the family they were becoming through choice and commitment rather than just blood. The black fabric caught neon glow from below, pink and blue and gold, reflecting off its surface, turning rain into colored light, each drop a tiny prism. Han-soo looked up at the umbrella, mesmerized by the dancing colors, then back at them, his wet face serious, hands moving with deliberate certainty. Family. Not a question, a declaration, truth spoken in silence. Naomi knelt beside him, rain misting her face, making her blink. "Yes, baby, family. All of us together? Always?" She looked up at Hyunjae. His eyes held everything: gratitude, hope, love so new. It still felt fragile but growing stronger with every moment they chose each other. With every day they built this life brick by brick. "All of us," she confirmed, her voice steady. "Always." Hyunjae crouched down, bringing himself to their level. 3 people, 1 umbrella, 1 heartbeat synchronized across 3 chests. I know I'm still learning, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Still figuring out how to be the father you deserve, the partner she deserves. I make mistakes, I'll make more, but I promise I will show up every single day. I will choose this life, choose you both, not because of blood or duty or guilt, but because you are my home, both of you, my family, the only thing that matters. Naomi reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. And I promise to trust you, to build this life together, to let go of old fears and embrace new possibilities, not as rescuer and rescued, not as debt and repayment, but as equals. Equals, he repeated, the word a vow. Partners. Partners, she echoed, sealing it. Hansu hugged them both, his small arms barely reaching around them, but his heart, enormous, trusting, whole, reaching everywhere, filling every broken place, healing every old wound, proving that sometimes the smallest among us carry the most powerful medicine. The rain fell softly around them, washing the city clean. Below, Seoul glittered, millions of lights telling millions of stories of struggle and triumph, heartbreak and hope. Theirs was just one among many, but it was enough. It was everything. I hid your child not because I was afraid, Naomi said quietly. The words she'd carried for 5 years, finally spoken in the open air where they could dissipate like rain. But because I loved him, and now I get to love him with you. And I know, I'm learning to love you too. Not the man you were, but the man you're becoming. The man you choose to be every day. Hyun-jae's voice was thick with emotion. That's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me. Not just your love, but your honesty, your trust despite every reason not to trust. Not given, Naomi corrected gently. Built, together, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one mistake forgiven, and one promise kept at a time. He nodded, understanding settling in his eyes like sunrise. Love wasn't a gift you received wrapped and perfect. It was something you constructed, brick by brick, choice by choice, through ordinary days and extraordinary moments. Through braiding hair badly and signing homework help, and showing up when showing up was hard. They stood together on that rooftop as Seoul breathed beneath them. A man who'd chosen peace over power, a woman who'd chosen courage over safety, and a 5-year-old boy who'd chosen joy despite every reason to choose otherwise. Below them, the city glittered like hope made visible. Above them, clouds broke apart, revealing stars, small and distant but constant, always there even when you couldn't see them, reminding them that light persists, that darkness is temporary, that love, real love, outlasts everything. And in that moment, surrounded by rain and light, and the kind of love that doesn't demand, but simply exists, they were home. Not because they'd arrived somewhere, but because they'd found each other. The image would fade slowly, 3 silhouettes under a black umbrella, reflecting pink and blue neon, rain falling like grace, the city alive below them. Soft piano music would rise, gentle and full of promise, and as everything faded to black, one truth would remain. Love, real love, isn't about fear or control or possession. It's about presence, partnership, and the courage to say, I choose you, today, tomorrow, always. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's when it matters most. This is what genuine love looks like, not perfect, but present, not fearless, but faithful. Naomi didn't just save a child, she showed a broken man what wholeness could be. And Hyun-jae didn't just find his son. He found a reason to become the father that son deserved and the partner Naomi needed. Their story is motivational not because it was easy, but because they chose it every day. Through danger and doubt and the slow, sacred work of becoming family. If this story moved your heart, if it made you believe in second chances and the kind of romance built on respect, equality, vulnerability, and commitment, share it. Let someone else feel what you felt tonight. And if you want more stories like this, where love wins not through power, but through presence, hit that subscribe button right now. Because there are more stories to tell, more hearts to heal, more reasons to believe that love, real love, is worth every risk. Thank you for spending these moments with Naomi, Hyun-jae, and Han-soo. May your night be peaceful. May you wake tomorrow knowing that courage and kindness still change the world. And may you remember, the bravest love isn't the one that never feels fear. It's the one that chooses hope anyway. Good night. And may your own love story be as brave and beautiful as theirs.